Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 3, where I'm going to be free hitting and I'm going to show you my real free hit team, my final free hit team. Most likely I might change something right before the deadline, but I'm pretty settled on my squad currently. And you're going to see my free hit team. But before that, we're going to go through my Game Week 2 score, how I did in Game Week 2. We're also going to take a look at my free hit draft for Game Week 2, because I do a free hit draft every single week on this YouTube channel, basically. And we're also going to take a look at my Game Week plans from Game Week 4 onwards, just to show you a little bit about how my squad is looking after the free hit as well. So yeah, it's going to show you exactly why I am free hitting in Game Week 3, because it's going to show you how good my team is set going forward, because my team is actually looking pretty damn good in my opinion from Game Week 4 especially. First and foremost, Game Week 2, which was a decent game week for me, 57 points, mainly because I had Gyökeres as captain with 24 points. That was amazing for me. He scored twice, scored a penalty right at the end, which was a really nice moment for me. So far, my highlight of the FPL season. It is still a young season, but I am very happy to see Gyökeres score 2 goals when he was the one that I really went for. Rather than going with someone like Watkins, who most people went for, I went for Gyökeres simply because I knew I was going to free hit in Game Week 3 when Gyökeres has Liverpool and Watkins had like a decent match against Crystal Palace. So that's the main thing. Like Gyökeres had better fixtures in Game Week 1, 2, and 4 compared to Watkins. And that's why I selected Gyökeres, and it has paid off with the captaincy score of 24 points from Gyökeres. Apart from him, not really that many points. Gabriel, once again, got a clean sheet for Arsenal. Didn't get any goals like Timber, who got 24 points. So yeah, that was a bit of a downside there, but couldn't really foresee Timber scoring 2 set-piece goals when it's Gabriel who is the main man from set-pieces from Arsenal usually. Also got 6 points from Dubravka in goal for Burnley. I started him because I had Mateta playing in Cells. Mateta didn't score, but Cells conceded, Dubravka did not, so I ended up getting more points from that as well. Other than that, not many points to get from the starting 11. Joachim Andersen is one of the ones that did get some extra points from defensive contributions. He once again managed to get 10 defensive contributions in total, which means that he got 2 extra points and gets a nice little 4-pointer there. And that's really why I picked him. You can see Agbadu as well on my bench. Same thing with him. He conceded once, but got defensive contribution points. So that means he got 4 points, which is over 2 game weeks. If you get defensive contribution points 2 game weeks in a row, that is the same as a clean sheet. So it is quite valuable. And I've picked a lot of defenders that are pretty good when it comes to defensive contribution points in Anderson, Richards, and Agbadu, so that if I play them, they have a decent chance of getting some extra points. And that helped. That worked out this time around with Anderson getting 4 points. Really happy with that. And yeah, in total, managed to get 57 points. The rest of my players, not so much. Rodgers, again, a bit disappointing. Reinders looked a lot weaker in Game Week 2 compared to Game Week 1 because they played a different formation or with different players, with Marmouche taking up a lot of the spots that Reinders is preferred to be in. Bowen, again, the biggest disappointment so far for me this season is Bowen. And Mateta, for that matter, 2 points from him. Also, I think my biggest regret is not having Ekitike as that third striker instead of Mateta. I could have probably downgraded Richards to a 4.0 defender and then had Mateta playing as, or Mateta turn into Ekitike, which would be much better for my start of the season. But all in all, pretty happy with my season so far, even though it is not the best rank, but it's better than most other like content creators / engaged managers and stuff. So it's looking good, and I also think my squad is set up better for the game weeks ahead. Game Week 3, I'm going to free hit, as you will see pretty soon, and Game Week 4 onwards, I think my squad is pretty well set up for what's to come really. So yeah, pretty excited for the season. Decent start to the season, no transfers made so far, so I have 2 free transfers. And I have the free hit active already for Game Week 3. So we'll get to see that soon, but we're also going to go through my free hit selection from Game Week 2 and see how that compares to my own Game Week 2 score, see if I outscored my Game Week 2 team or if my free hit team got worse in terms of points, which is actually the case this time. So yeah, you can see my free hit team in Game Week 2 got 51 points. Mainly because I picked the wrong captain. So sometimes an abundance of choice is a downside, because I had Haaland and Saka, who I thought were slightly stronger captaincy candidates than Gyökeres. I did not have Haaland or Saka in my own team, but in the free hit team, I had them, and I thought both were going to be better captaincy choices, which might have been true as well, because Saka got injured. Couldn't really foresee that, even though he has been struggling with injury issues for like the past year. And then Haaland as well had 2 yeah, probably should have had 2 goal returns in that game. So I think he could have had a better score than Gyökeres in the end. But Gyökeres turned out to be the best captaincy choice. At least I had him in the free hit team. So I did get quite a lot of points, but not as much as my own team because I picked the wrong captain basically. So that can happen sometimes, especially now in Game Week 3. I think that's like the major issue with Game Week 3. The captaincy choice is a bit iffy, but we'll see who I end up with there as well eventually. But for my Game Week 2 squad in the free hit team, the defenders I selected were really good. Gabriel got clean sheet. Cucurella and Munoz both got an assist each. They could have easily had a clean sheet on top of that, so really happy with my defensive picks all around. Saka as well, happy with the pick of him. He scored a really nice goal and then got injured, so he was subbed off before 60 minutes, but I think the pick in general was really good. It's just the injury that was unfortunate for Saka. Semenyo, another player who could have had even more points. He was really close to scoring after getting that early assist, which would have given him another major haul in Game Week 2. So he was also a pretty good pick. Reinders, a bit influenced by Game Week 1 and how good he looked in Game Week 1, was not as good at all in Game Week 2, but I think he can still be a good player going forward into the season. Adingra got 1 point. I did expect Sunderland to beat Burnley after the first game week, but it turns out it was just West Ham that were really, really bad and lost to Sunderland, who are still a really, really bad team. So Adingra with just 1 point, kind of disappointing. And also Ollie Watkins, not the best start to the season so far. 2 points for him. Aston Villa and Watkins haven't really looked that threatening, so we'll have to take a look at that and see how that develops for the next few game weeks to see if we should keep him for the really, really good fixtures coming in Game Week 5 onwards, or maybe you have to sell him to bring in some other strikers that are looking better currently. Aston Villa in general, just really disappointed against Brentford. I thought that was going to be a decent game for them. Watkins especially against his old team, but also Martinez in goal, getting only 2 points, conceding to Dango and Brentford, and not giving me that many points on the free hit suggestion for Game Week 2 basically. So yeah, sometimes it happens. You outscore your free hit selection. I'm hoping that's not going to happen in Game Week 3, where I don't think that's going to happen, because my Game Week 3 team, like the team that I have selected now, is a lot stronger than what I would have had without the free hit. But that is also basically because I have had free hit in Game Week 3 in mind pretty much since preseason, because I figured would be a good week to free hit, and we'll see if I'm right or not basically. But now let's take a look at what you've actually come here to see, and that is going to be the Game Week 3 free hit team that I have currently. So let's go ahead and look at that. So yeah, this is currently what I have, and most likely what I will end up with. It is a bit unconventional, I guess, with 4-3-3 with 4 defenders, but that's because I can't really see who I should bench out of these 4 defenders, especially now that Fabian Schär is fit to play. He is most likely going to be on penalties with both Isak and Gordon out. It seems like Fabian Schär is then the next up in line to take penalties, and penalty-taking defenders is not something we usually have in FPL. I feel like I have to take advantage, especially when he plays Leeds away. I think Leeds have been really lackluster going forward this season, and I think Fabian Schär could easily get a clean sheet in that game. And I think for all the defenders, that is sort of the case. I have people that can both get a clean sheet and can score goals. Cucurella is always a goal threat. He's always a really nice player to have in FPL regardless. He is someone that has been in my wildcard drafts the last few game weeks, and he just looks like a really, really good pick in general. Milenkovic, West Ham are awful at defending set pieces. Milenkovic is awesome at scoring set pieces. It seems like a pretty easy choice there. And Dorgu playing super attacking against Burnley, who are a pretty weak side, but we've also seen Man United really struggle this past week. So the triple Man United thing for Game Week 3 is looking a bit worse than it did preseason, and even like Game Week 1 and even after Game Week 2. But yeah, losing against Grimsby was not really the best thing for Man United in terms of hype for Game Week 3, but maybe that will put more people off having them, and maybe they'll strike back and have a decent game against Burnley. I think Burnley are just not that good, so I think Man United can still do well against them, especially with the good players that they do have. Dorgu super attacking, can get clean sheet points as well, and yeah, I think he can get some nice points, but he is probably the defender that would be the most likely to drop out if I had to, and if I were to pick another midfielder. But I couldn't really find a 4th midfielder that I really, really, really like. Alanga is the one that's the closest. He is on the bench, but again, Newcastle have had a lot of injuries and stuff like that. I'm not so sure. And Leeds are pretty solid defensively. They're not the best offensively, but defensively they looked okay. At least in the first game against Everton, they looked pretty good. Against Arsenal, not so much, but that's Arsenal, which is a really tough team to play against, basically. And then the main thing when it comes to the free hit is which Man United midfielders to select, because you have Mbeumo, you have Cunha, you have Bruno Fernandes, 3 really viable and good picks that you can choose from, and it's really tough to choose between them. But I've landed on Mbeumo and Cunha, Personally, not captaining any of them because I don't feel that good about any of them, but I feel like at least one, probably two out of the three will get like a decent score. I feel like Man United are going to score 2 or 3 goals in this game, and I think Mbeumo, Cunha and Fernandes are going to be the main ones getting points from that, maybe even Dorgu, who I have in the team. But currently I've landed on Mbeumo and Cunha. I think Cunha has looked like the best player so far in the league for Man United in terms of getting points, getting goals and assists. That's why I've had like a good hunch on him, but after the Grimsby game where he didn't look as good, I was kind of put off a little bit. And Mbeumo I've picked, and I think he's the strongest Man United midfielder currently, in my opinion, which is kind of controversial, but first and foremost, he takes set pieces really well. Bruno Fernandes takes set pieces from the other side, but not as well. And Mbeumo could have easily had 2 assists in this past game. He ended up with 0 because of the one goal that they scored turned out to be an own goal, and then the really good chance from Maguire towards the end of the game against Fulham was hit just wide. But I think Mbeumo could easily get some assists. We've also seen Mbeumo, especially last season, just completely dominate these newly promoted teams, and that's why I'm the highest on him, I think, in general, because he looks like a pretty good player against the weaker teams. We even saw him score against Grimsby, his first goal for Man United, so I could easily see the same thing happening against Burnley. So he's actually my favorite midfielder currently. And Cunha, I've just had a good hunch about for a long time. I almost had him as, or like earlier in the week, I had him as my captaincy choice, but like I've been a bit more disappointed with him with the Grimsby game especially. So I've dropped the captaincy thoughts on Man United midfielders in general, but I do think Cunha is still someone that has the highest ceiling, I think, out of the Man United midfielders. But Fernandes, a lot of people have him, especially those that don't free hit. Fernandes is most likely their only Man United midfielder. Some people have bought Cunha as well. But I feel like Fernandes is the weakest out of the three. He is on penalties, especially now after the Grimsby game where both Mbeumo and Cunha missed their penalties, or at least one penalty missed from Mbeumo out of 2, and Cunha missed his one and only penalty. So Bruno Fernandes is going to be on penalties, but I don't think penalties is the end-all be-all. You'll see a lot of people on free hit not select Fabian Schär, for example, who is on penalties as well. There's not really that big of a difference when it comes to the chance of Newcastle getting a penalty compared to Man United getting a penalty. But for some reason, Bruno Fernandes is like a must-have because of penalties, and Fabian Schär is not really a must-have because of penalties. But yeah, Fernandes is more confirmed to be on penalties than Fabian Schär, but I do think it's like a decent likelihood that Fabian Schär takes penalties for Newcastle. But when it comes to Bruno Fernandes, he just plays too deep for my liking. If you look at the heat map for him for any game, even against Grimsby, he's not even close to getting goals from open play. So yeah, I just think Mbeumo and Cunha have a higher ceiling if Man United are offensive and attack this game as I expect them to, after especially that like humiliating loss against Grimsby. So yeah, I just prefer Mbeumo and Cunha currently, but not enough to captain either one of them really, because my captaincy is going to Erling Haaland up front. I figure just like he is a bit of a differential. He plays Brighton, which is usually a kind of tough fixture for him, especially last season. He didn't really get that much in terms of expected goals. He had that one of the games against Brighton, he had really high expected goals, but part of that was because the goal that he did score, he got 2 major chances in one, where he gets a high XG number, but he can only score 1 goal from that double chance. So yeah, XG is sometimes fool's gold. It's sometimes something that could basically fool you, like I said, fool's gold. And he struggled in general to create chances against Brighton that much, but I do think he is the one player that's looked the best so far this season. I feel like he should have had goals in Game Week 2. He had an amazing Game Week 1, and I think it can continue against Brighton, who have looked pretty weak defensively so far. And we've also seen Brighton in the past lose like 7-0 against Nottingham Forest. They've lost 4-2 or whatever against Chelsea when Palmer scored those 4 goals in the first half. We've seen in the past Brighton just completely flop against anyone really, but they have been really good, especially last season against a bigger team. So I am a bit like not too sold on the captaincy, but at the same time I feel like I just have to, when Haaland is such a differential currently as well, with not that many people having him. I feel like it is kind of the best to captain him. I also think he has like a pretty high floor. Like I think there's a good likelihood that he scores a goal or something like that, because I think Man City will at least score some goals in this game, and I think Haaland is the most likely to score in that team as well. So yeah, he is my captain currently. My vice captain is Chris Wood against West Ham. Again, I think it's kind of like West Ham bias. Even though I am tripling up on Forest against West Ham, I think I just can't really have it in me to captain someone against West Ham when I have so many other potential captaincy options. So Yeah, Chris Wood is still a really good captaincy option, though. I don't begrudge you going for him if you want to captain him, especially seeing as West Ham are so bad at defending set pieces and Wood is really good at scoring them. That is like the main case for Chris Wood. And also just from open play, West Ham have been pretty bad defensively. Have signed two new midfielders now, but I don't think Matheus Fernandes or the Monaco midfielder, who I can't remember the name of currently, I don't think they're going to play in this game week. So I think Nottingham Forest will have their way with West Ham basically, and I think the triple up is going to be really good in the free hit. So yeah, Wood is one of the players, Milenkovic, who I talked about with the goal threat and also the really good chance of getting a clean sheet. And that really good chance of getting a clean sheet also accounts for Matt Sells, who I have in goal, and he's the only player that I have in the free hit team that I would have had if I had not free hit it. So that tells you something about why I am free hitting this week. I don't really have many of these players, but if you already had Cucurella, Joao Pedro, Bruno Fernandes, for example, maybe Dorgu, maybe you have him and some other good players, then yeah, you don't have to free hit. We talked about that in the FPL Score podcast this week, looking at Chemo's team, one of the 3 founding members of the FPL Score podcast. His team is like super well set up for Game Week 3, so he doesn't need to use the free hit. So it depends on your team, but for my team, I think it's pretty clear that free hit was the best remedy, and basically that is also down to the fact that I have sort of prepared for it. But I think my team is pretty well set up for the future with that in mind. So yeah, I'm hoping it's going to go well. The last few players that I haven't talked about in the team, Dango Ouattara against Sunderland, he is like, he's been pretty much a lock all week for me. He looked so good against Brentford, and I think Sunderland have looked so bad. They really should have lost against West Ham in the first game. At least in the first half, they were so much worse than West Ham. Second half, they did deserve to win the game in the end. And then they lost to Burnley, which was not really that good of a look for Sunderland either. Dango looked fantastic for Brentford. He is a really good player, someone that I really like, someone that's fun to watch. So for me, it's a simple choice on the free hit team to have Dango, who I wouldn't have otherwise, because I don't think Brentford have that good of a fixture run apart from the Sunderland match. So yeah, Dango makes it into the squad as well. And Joao Pedro, who is like, especially now, he is the lock to be in the team with Palmer out for Game Week 3. Joao Pedro is going to be on penalties. He's going to be central into everything that Chelsea do offensively. So yeah, he's a pretty simple choice as well. I think the strikers are pretty simple. I have Haaland captain, Wood vice captain, and Joao Pedro, like I mentioned, is such a clear pick. But I do have an alternative if you want to go with someone else. I think Richarlison is someone that I would really like to have in the team. If he was listed as a midfielder, I think I would actually have him rather than Dorgu in my team. But he is listed as a forward, and I can't have 4 forwards, sadly. So Richarlison does not make the team, but he has looked really good, and this is like the 1 week where I could have him, because I think from Game Week 4 onwards, Solanke might get his place back into the team. But Richarlison has looked amazing so far. Bournemouth at home is like a decent match. They aren't the best defensively, but they did keep a clean sheet last game. So yeah, I like Richarlison, but not better than any of the other strikers that I have currently. When it comes to midfielders, the 4th midfielder that I was the closest to having, apart from Elanga, who I have on the bench, is Ismail Assar, who has a really good fixture against Aston Villa, or not a good fixture, but like a fixture that he really likes, because he's been really good against Aston Villa in the past. I think from 6 matches he has like 7 goals and 3 assists or something like that. His pace really works out well against the high line of Emery, it seems like. So yeah, he had 2 major holes I think last season against Aston Villa, and I think that could happen again, so I am slightly tempted with him. At the same time, also a bit hesitant picking another Palace player when I have Mateta in my original team. And also the fact that Crystal Palace have played so many matches now too, like pretty intense matches against Fredrikstad in the Conference League qualifiers, and also last weekend in the Premier League on top of that. So yeah, that might be a bit tired. Maybe Sarr needs to be given a rest. And all that stuff. So yeah, just not completely sold. And Aston Villa away is a tough match. Aston Villa haven't really conceded much this season either, even though they've been disappointing offensively. Defensively, they've been pretty solid so far. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on Sarr. Not enough to have him in my team. And defensively, I think in defense, my favorite alternative there is James Tarkowski. He's been a defensive contribution monster so far, gotten defensive contribution points in both games, and he's playing against the Wolves side without Jürgen Strand Larsen, because he's trying to go to Newcastle and he's sort of injured, I guess, for this game week. So yeah, I think Wolves will struggle to score against Everton. I think Tarkowski has a really good chance of getting a clean sheet, so could have even gone with a 5-man defense, because there are a lot of good defenders I think this week, but Tarkowski, yeah, I think it's just the goal threat. I don't think he has as much goal threat or assist threat attacking potential as the other defenders that I do have. So that's why I left him out, but he's a really good choice as well if you want to go with someone different than the ones that I've picked currently. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the team. On the bench as well, I have Kelleher and Coyote from Brentford. I think they have a decent chance of keeping a clean sheet against Sunderland, but it is away, so I'm not really banking on it. So they're just backups for a pretty cheap buck. And then finally I have Rangers as my final bench spot, and that's basically just to have Rangers potentially in every single game week of the season. That's pretty much why I have him, just on the bench, just to have him in the squad still, because I've had him all season so far, and hopefully that will continue, and he'll be much better than the 5.5 price point suggests. So yeah, that's pretty much my free hit team for Game Week 3. I'm pretty settled on the squad. Might be some changes, late changes, if there are some new rumors or leaks or anything like that, or if I get a good hunch on someone. Yeah, I might change my team, but I feel pretty settled with the squad, unless there's like a fourth midfielder that I really like for some reason. If I see a stat that I really like or something, but most likely I'm going to keep this squad. I'm going to have a 4-3-3 formation with 3 Man United players on the free hit. That's going to be pretty exciting to see what happens in that game, in particular Man United Burnley. Yeah, that is my free hit squad for Game Week 3. And I'm also going to show you, just to end this video pretty quickly, what my current slight plans are for Game Week 4, because I get my old team back, and there are some issues to address potentially in Game Week 4. So yeah, let's move to that finally before we end the video. So this is currently what my Game Week 4 team is looking like, and honestly, apart from the goalkeepers, which is awful, Cells against Arsenal away, Dubravka against Liverpool at home, it doesn't really get much worse than that. But apart from the goalkeepers, I think the team is looking pretty good, and I might even bench boost. Looking at the bench, I have Josh King for Fulham against Leeds at home. That's a good fixture. I have El Hadji Malik Diouf against Spurs, not the best fixture, but it is at home, and Agbadu away to Newcastle. So they all could get points. It's not good enough for me to bench boost, but it is close enough. There are some players that I'm a bit iffy about benching, but all in all, my starting 11 is looking really nice, I think, in general. Apart from maybe 2 players, or I don't know, even they are looking pretty good, especially if Palmer is fit and ready. But the big question is if Palmer is going to be ready to play for Game Week 4. I think so personally. I think he's just going to get Game Week 3 off to rest, and he's not in the international squad for England. And I think he'll be back for Brentford in Game Week 4. And now he's turning out to be a bit of a differential, because a lot of people are selling him because they're not on free hitting Game Week 3. So that might be another advantage that I have, that I might get Palmer for Brentford, for example, which is a good game, I think, in Game Week 4. And also in Game Week 6, he has Brighton. I could potentially have him for both games, but I am also looking to potentially get in Haaland, which is something that I might do already in Game Week 4, especially if Palmer is out. I think there's a pretty easy move I could do with Palmer to Devaney. It's not the best, but Devaney, as you can see from my bench, I do have enough bench players to come in and play currently. And if I do Palmer to Devaney, I can actually afford to go from Bowen to Haaland. Even with the price drops for Bowen so far, I'll be able to afford that move, or that double move. So that is something that I'm thinking about. But if Palmer is fit to play, I do want to keep him a little bit. I might not want to get Haaland. I might also want to get Ekitike. It just depends if Isak goes to Liverpool or not. So I could also do Bowen to Ekitike, but to do that, I need some extra money. And I would actually change my goalkeepers around a little bit, with Cells going out for Petrovic. And when it comes to Cells, there is a slight potential issue. It seems like Nottingham Forest are going for John Victor, the goalkeeper from Botafogo in Brazil. I still think Cells is going to be the starting goalkeeper, but it is a slight worry, and also the fixture is obviously not the best. Cells has great fixtures in Game Week 5 and 6, that's why it's a bit harsh to sell him, but I do think the rotation of Petrovic and Dubravka is actually pretty good going into Game Week 13, which is where I'm trying to wildcard this season. So yeah, I don't really mind going from Cells to Petrovic, but I do prefer Cells as my goalkeeper in FPL currently. But if that is enough for me to bring in Ekitike, if Isak doesn't go to Liverpool, then that's what will have to be done. Because yeah, if Isak doesn't go to Liverpool, Ekitike is going to be a fantastic option. Well, either way, it's going to be a fantastic option in Game Week 4, because I don't think Isak's going to be ready to play in that game week from the start at least. So I think Ekitike is going to be a really good option anyway. But long term, slightly more longer term, or yeah, especially long term, if Isak doesn't come to Liverpool, Ekitike is going to be a fantastic option that everyone brings in for Game Week 4. So I have to have a plan in case of that happening. But this is not set in stone. Maybe I want to keep Palmer, and Bowen is most likely going to be sold, but there are a couple options at striker position, but I think there are better options in Game Week 5, for example, when Chris Wood has easier matches at that point. That's also when Watkins has his best matches. Everton away in Game Week 4 is not the best jumping on point for Watkins, but Game Week 5, against this is Sunderland, I think. That is the better jumping on point for Watkins. There's also Strand Larsen, who, if he stays with Wolverhampton, will have fantastic fixtures from Game Week 5. There's also potentially like the Haaland move that I'm looking to do, potentially. So there are a lot of striker options in Game Week 5. So I might delay the Bowen transfer another week and give Bowen another chance of getting points, because he is still going to play 90 minutes. Even though West Ham haven't looked good so far, maybe the new signings will do something. Maybe Potter will get fired after Game Week 3 and they'll have a new look team and Bowen will look better. I don't really mind keeping Bowen, but I would ideally want to sell him because there's so many other good strikers in his price point, basically. So yeah, he's the one I'm looking to get rid of. Rodgers, I think I'm just going to keep. I play him against Everton away. It's not the best fixture, but it is a decent fixture. We saw Brighton create a lot of chances against Everton at their new home ground. So I think Rodgers is decent there. And from Game Week 5 onwards, I think Rodgers and Watkins, even though they've struggled so far, I think they're going to be really good players to have going forward. So yeah, I quite like the look of my team in general. Salah against Burnley, easy captaincy choice, of course. Gyökeres against Nottingham Forest. He's another striker that I might sell in Game Week 5 because he has tough fixtures, but I might also keep him because he's looked pretty good so far, and Arsenal are really good. And in the defense, I have Gabriel against Nottingham Forest at home, which is a decent fixture. Anderson against Leeds at home, which is a really good fixture, and Richards against Sunderland at home, which is an especially good fixture. Also, I have Mateta, who's going to have really nice fixtures in both Game Week 4 and Game Week 5. And then in Game Week 6, I could potentially do Mateta to Haaland if I don't bring in Haaland earlier. Because Mateta has tougher fixtures from Game Week 6 onwards, and that's when I might go to Haaland. That was my plan initially, to go from probably Salah to Haaland in Game Week 6. That was my initial idea, but now I might go from Palmer to Haaland. I don't know. It depends what happens the next few weeks, but currently I'm probably going to give Salah and Palmer Game Week 4 and 5 to convince me, or in Game Week 3 for that matter, to convince me to keep them, and whoever doesn't really convince me to keep them, I might downgrade so I can fit in Haaland for Game Week 6 at least, if not earlier. It just depends what happens with Haaland, but yeah, I have captain Haaland for Game Week 3. That's most likely what I'm going to do unless something changes. So I'm hoping he does really well in Game Week 3 and gives me a reason to bring him in straight away in Game Week 4. Potentially, and I do have a route to do that with Palmer out for Devaney. It's really cheap. He's probably not going to play that much for Palace, but he's going to play a little bit at least. But it's just to bring in Haaland for Bowen, and I still have a strong enough squad to downgrade someone to a 4.5 and still have decent starting players most game weeks. So yeah, that is probably my most likely move in Game Week 4 currently. But Game Week 4 is so far into the future, don't really have to worry about that. That's after the international break. There's going to be a lot of things happening before then, but I just wanted to give you an outlook of how my team is looking for at least the first game week after my free hit. So yeah, pretty happy with my free hit decision for now at least. We'll see how it unfolds this weekend. Really excited to see what happens. It's going to be really fun, and it's going to be a defining moment of my FPL season, I feel like. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all are going to enjoy FPL more than you have so far, most of you guys, because I think it's going to be a pretty fun season. I think the double chips thing is actually, the more I think about it, the more fun I feel like it is, because it brings so much variety. I think, like, especially the triple captaincy chip is going to be like a lot of different decisions to be made there, a lot of different choices, I think, because we can only pick people in a single game week. Most likely there might be like a double game week, like in Game Week 17. I saw Ben Krellin tweet about that. If Crystal Palace go far in the League Cup and they also go play matches in the Conference League, they might have like a clash where it might be two fixtures that get moved from Game Week 16 to Game Week 17 or stuff like that. So you might get double game weeks actually, even in the first few game weeks. So that might entice you to keep your chips even longer. But for me, already used my free hit. I can't really use that over at that time. And at the same time, we also get 5 free transfers in Game Week 16. So we do have another thing that can help us navigate those game weeks if we don't have any chips left at that point. So yeah, just keep that in mind, potentially 4 chips in the future, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen, and especially if Palace go out of the League Cup in the next round, for example, we don't have to worry about it at all. So yeah, but anyways, that's a bit of an aside. I'll talk about that more in future videos, I'm sure, but for now, I think that's it pretty much. I have to go to sleep because it's like 1 a.m. and I'm actually at Kevin's house and he's sleeping, but that's maybe why I'm a bit more quiet this time around. We've been at like a wedding the past few days, or yesterday basically, and today we traveled home, or yesterday, whatever. It's a bit jumbled. You don't really care because you're here for FPL stuff. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.